I posted last month an episode talking about the Section 503 requirements of Section 503 of the Rehabilitation Act requirements for um, federal contractors and subcontractors to try to hire, retain, and promote people with disabilities. And they do need to demonstrate their efforts to do that. Hi, I'm Annette from Nothing Without Us, Stories and Discussions of Meaningful Inclusion. I wanted to remind everybody that all the episodes are captioned, and if you haven't seen me, I am a 70-ish-year-old woman with short gray hair, wearing dark rimmed eyeglasses, and today I am wearing blue earrings. This March is going to be our first anniversary. And I would really love to have 100 members, 100 subscribers. So please subscribe for free and tell your friends they can subscribe for free also at patreon.com/nothingwithoutus. It would really make me happy. In the meantime, everybody can drop me a like, click on that little heart, and maybe even make some comments, some things that you want to see in the future or would like to see less of. Please, I hope not, but join a conversation. That would be good. Like I said, there is a free subscription. There is also, I have just recently started a, um, a, a sub-series called, Bitch on Wheels, where I can be a little edgier, a little more sarcastic, maybe a little humorous. Those episodes are behind a paywall, and if you're interested in it, please feel free to subscribe. There are other benefits to being a paid member, but mostly I just need some numbers from you. It would mean a lot to me. We ran into some snags while looking at the possibilities. If you were to do a Google search on finding professionals with disabilities, what you will get instead of professionals with disabilities, you're going to get professionals who work with people with disabilities. If you look up almost any category, this is what you're going to find. There are some lawyers with disabilities. They have a couple of groups, and there are two for doctors. But if you're looking for academics with disabilities, if you're looking for other professionals with disabilities, they are really hard to find because there's no way, there are no sources to look up. And I was thinking, I have done some outreach with some organizations that I know that promote employment of people with disabilities, but again, they don't have job boards. And as far as an association goes, it's a looser contact. So I thought about maybe there would be some groups on, say, LinkedIn, and I looked, and there are some very good groups for people with disabilities on LinkedIn. One that I think is particularly interesting is Divas with Disabilities Project, which promotes the inclusion of Black and Brown women in employment, with disabilities in employment. Doesn't really, I don't know if it's a group though with a job board. There are disability advocates, but again, it's not really a job board. Entrepreneurs with disabilities. So we need, what came from my looking for ways to find this, there are a number of groups of allies, people that help people with disabilities. But I think it's time that we say, we are in charge of our lives and we will take charge of our careers and our professional lives. And maybe we do in some ways, but we don't in a group manner. And one problem that I did find in all my searching through this is that people with disabilities don't necessarily want to identify themselves as such. And I understand that dilemma because you want to be viewed and hired for your abilities. And I get that. And there are also, if you put it right out there that you have a disability, will that automatically set up some discrimination? So, and while I understand it, I do not have to cope with that part because at the minute I roll into a room, people know. I don't have to address it. But that issue of being able to identify ourselves is it's hard. And but until we can, and until we do, we have a barrier to the types of employment we'd like to have. I would love to see groups for academics with disabilities, um, business professionals with disabilities, all kinds of groups for people with disabilities in employment or seeking employment, or a pool of people with disabilities that can say, come see us. We've got people that will be able to do these jobs. Because there are the people out there, and I have no doubt whatsoever. But we need to kind of stuff the pipeline a bit and line up as many people as we can with disabilities for jobs. So I'm, really saying I'm looking for people now who will set up uh, groups for professionals with disabilities, set up groups online because that's where you're going to reach the most people. I looked at LinkedIn because it is all about employment, or at least primarily about employment. And that would be a good way to set up a group. You can set up groups in cities, towns, depending on how large they are, or even states, for, young professionals with disabilities. I know when I look at groups for people with other minorities, there are, women in business, Black women in business. There are groups for young gay professionals. I mean, these groups exist. We don't, not to any great extent. And I think we need to make a statement. We need to make a statement that says, we are here, we are qualified, we want to work. And I think about this a lot because I know that there are no places where academics with disabilities exist. It not in a group, let's put it that way. So how do people grow into leadership roles? I know there are barriers to education, higher education for people with disabilities. Academia is incredibly ableist. But until we manage to squeeze enough people through the process, and these people are willing to identify as disabled, we won't have the chances at the jobs in leadership, which will then help smooth the way for more to get into that pipeline and get into those professions. So, let's think about this. Think about the importance of identifying. Would I ever want to get a job because I have a disability? Absolutely not. I would want to get a job because I'm good at what I do. But if, if I identify as disabled too, and that helps, I'm not going to be opposed to it, because once I'm employed, I have to prove myself anyway, or at least that's how I look at it. But I think I would like to be, hired because of my skills. But if there are three people with the same skills, then if having a disability gives me a bit of an edge, that would be great. I know the big fear is that it's going to take away from the view of yourself a, as a capable person, um, which is probably one reason I avoid all these euphemisms. And it just bothers me. It's not wrong to be disabled. It's not a bad thing. But if we're afraid ourselves, then we make it easier for other people to discriminate against us. And I don't want to see that. If we're proud to be who we are, not necessarily because we have a disability, but that disability doesn't take away from who we are. That's the important thing. And if we can be proud of ourselves living lives as people with disabilities, living lives, professional lives, skilled lives, good lives, just being a good person, raising our families, doing the things that other people do, and proud of us for doing it. Not that we're inspirational, please don't ever think that I'm looking for that at all. But that we can say, I'm me. Part of being me is being disabled. And I'm also a professional. And I have these skills. And these skills are the things you want to hire. And you may want to accommodate my disability. I may need you to accommodate my disability, but what you're hiring is my ability, and that ability is worth something. So, let's look at ways to grow such groups. I would love to see them. I know there are groups of allies, and that is great, and I appreciate the support. I do, for sure. But we definitely need to have groups of professionals with disabilities. And please send me the link when you do establish some. I would like to promote them. I would like to talk with you about that meaningful inclusion and what it can do for people with disabilities in general. Certainly it would be good for yourself. And I'm always happy to see people succeed. But let's do that, focusing on our professions, and that we just also have disabilities, which makes you want to hire us, because we're not only skilled and capable of doing the job you want, but you'd comply with Section 503 as well. I think that's a good selling point. I think disability pride should be important this year. It is going to be the 35th anniversary of the ADA. We need to stand out, and stand out in a positive, strong way. I know we have the ability, so let's go for it. Thank you for listening. I'm Annette Bourbonniere from Nothing Without Us, Stories and Discussions of Meaningful Inclusion. Please subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me if I had 100 members by our first anniversary. Click on a heart if you like what I'm doing. Make some comments. That's all very helpful. Tell your friends they can find us on patreon.com/nothingwithoutus. You can also find me on YouTube and Spotify and other audio platforms. You can also find my sub-series, which is definitely in the paid section, called Bitch on Wheels. And it is a little more sarcastic, a little edgier, and sometimes a little humorous. They are short bites, but I think they're worth listening to. And so thank you again. Until the next Nothing Without Us, I'm Annette.